You know, sometimes when I'm reading student essays, I read a sentence and I say to myself, wait a minute, who said what? And that's why we are going to address two issues today that you as students should really probably make sure that you can understand and do, frankly, because I gotta tell you, sometimes it can be tricky to tell who said what. So after this lesson, we're hoping that you will be better able to exactly express, well, who said what? And there's two ways we're going to go about this. The first way is by using these handy-dandy little new punctuation marks called quotation marks. Sometimes they're called the 66 and the 99. You see them in air quotes all the time, like this. All of this is to say that, well, people are trying to focus in on words that are not their own. And, well, the air quote thing is actually a little different. Maybe we'll get to that, but probably not, because that's not writing, and we're talking about writing here. We're talking about your writing and your reading of the English language. So, when do we use quotation marks? We use quotation marks for quotations. Quotations are when you, as a writer, are using someone else's exact words. And this is important. I mean, we're not really a litigious bunch, but if you ever misquote someone, if you say that someone said the wrong words, there are some places in this world where you could get into a lot of trouble. Because, there's libel laws. Libel is when you misrepresent someone in writing. So, not to make you all afraid about quotation marks, but you should use them with caution. Quotation marks are specifically for the exact spoken words of someone else in writing. And punctuation matters. It's important to remember that quotation marks are always paired. You identify the beginning of someone else's words with quotation marks, and you identify the end of someone else's speech or spoken words with quotation marks. So it's a closed grouping of words. For example, the teacher said, "Stop talking." I mean, I say that pretty regularly in some of my classes. But that's a good example, right? Here, the beginning of what I said, the end of what I said. And note that because this is a finished thought, the period goes inside of the punctuation marks. When what is said is a complete thought, you have to identify that by capitalization. That's right, capitalization also matters with quotations. So, as you begin what someone said, you capitalize the first letter or the first word of any quotation. And this can get a little crazy, especially if you're quoting someone else. So here I could say, well, she said, he said, exactly. So here, whoever she is, let's say Lisa. I could say, well, Lisa said, and now I'm quoting Lisa. Lisa is talking about what Tim said. Lisa said, Tim said, exactly. So these are Tim's words. These are all Lisa's words, and well, these are just my words. And here you can see that I start the first set of quotation marks with my double quotations, but then when I'm quoting someone else, it switches to a single quotation. And if I were to quote someone, quoting someone else, it would be back to double. And then quoting someone else, it would be back to single. And it would just keep alternating. Double, single, double, single, double, single. It's like bunny ears, right? You can remember that. So, she said, he said, exactly. You'll note that the beginning of every new quotation is always capitalized. And here I have 3 in a row because I'm ending with the second quotation. quotation. So I have the double quotations closing her words, and I have the single quotation closing his words. And, well, that's quotation marks. The important thing to remember is the punctuation, the capitalization, and exact words. But we can't always remember exactly what someone else says, which is why it's also helpful to be able to paraphrase or summarize. And for that, we use reported speech, okay? Paraphrasing is saying what someone else said, but without their exact words, right? We're trying to get the idea across. And obviously to summarize is to take someone's many words and kind of crunch them down into a manageable idea. So we're not using someone's exact words necessarily when we are reporting speech. You could, and spare yourself the quotation marks. There's nothing to say that you can't, but you don't have to. Except that reported speech is a little bit more complicated. We're going to get into some examples, but first here are the rules. Rule number one, you actually need to think about it. Okay? With reported speech, there can be a lot of stuff going on, and you have to think about what you want to say, how you want to say what someone else said. Okay? But here are some simple things to remember. If somebody gave you a yes-no option, then you would essentially respond that, well, she asked me if I wanted to have dinner. I said yes. I'm gonna go have dinner. Okay, so, do you want to have dinner? Those are her exact words. And I report to you, I tell you what she said. She asked me, that's what she did, she asked me if I want to have dinner. So anytime I say yes, no, do you want to, are you going to, will you be doing, she asked me if, or he asked me if, but it's always going to be an if. If somebody tells you to do something, right? My teacher told me to stop talking. Why are you still talking? Yeah, you, over there, sit in the back. Why are you talking? Stop talking. I told you to stop talking. See, I can even report what I myself said. But if it's a command or a request, it would be essentially the infinitive. This is what he said. To do this. And if somebody is asking me questions, I would just respond with the question word, okay? So somebody asked me how I was doing today. None of this requires any extra punctuation, but it does require you to think about it, because you need to make sure you're maintaining subject-verb agreement. Let's look at some more examples. So essentially, what we would like you to be able to do is take reported speech, such as, Billy said his mom is going to pick us up, and change that into quotations. She said, obviously Billy's mom, comma, okay, this is important, I forgot to mention this, after or just before you quote, after you identify the speaker, it's important that you have a comma before the quotation. So now that's done and my colleagues will be satisfied there, okay? I said it. Anyway, we want you to be able to go back and forth. So, she said, comma, start quote, capital I'll pick you up at 7 p.m., period, end quote, okay? And we're going to do a little bit of this back and forth right now. The article mentions that games are addictive. How would you write what the article actually says? You would say, the article, the article states, or the article mentions, comma, get rid of this that, you don't need that anymore, and then start your quotations, capital G, games are addictive, and then end the quotation after the period. Okay? And you need to be able to work this back and forth. He told us how to do it. So what did he do? Well, obviously, he gave you lengthy instructions and you are just summarizing, okay? This is one of the best usages of reported speech. To take lots of information and condense it down into a simple thought. He told us exactly how to do it. Lisa asked if the party is tonight. So what did Lisa say? Do you remember? This word if tells you it has to be a yes/no question. So, what question would Lisa have asked? Is the party tonight? Well, that makes sense. Would she say, do the party tonight? Well, that doesn't make sense because we're talking about time, okay? So you have to be able to, again, think about it. Make sure you're having Lisa ask the right yes/no question, but at least you know it's a yes/no question because you have if. Tim thought it was last week. So here, again, it's important that you make sure that you're connecting the ideas of the different subjects in the thought. So, Tim thought, past tense, it was, it being the party, was, and it's no longer is because Lisa asked, is it tonight? But Tim thought it was last week. So you have to make sure that subject-verb agreement and time all make sense within the context of your reported speech. Okay? Tim thought it was last week. So what would Tim have said? Wasn't the party last week? Something like that. There's lots of options. I mean, if you weren't there to hear Tim, you can't quote him because you don't know his exact words. But you can still report on the idea or report on the general thought. We told them both to get a calendar and use it. I mean, there's probably one on their phones. They both got smartphones. They should just be able to check the calendar app. So what did we say? Well, you should know that we gave them a command. We said, quote, capital G, get a calendar and use it. End quote. I hope you're able to go back and forth. Maybe you should practice with someone else right now. Tell them exactly what I said. And let's review.
Quotations and reported speech. What do quotation marks do? Quotation marks identify the exact words of another speaker or writer. What two things matter in quotations? Punctuation and capitalization matter in quotations. What does Tim say in the following example? I heard Lisa say, Tim said, we are meeting at noon. We are meeting at noon. If you are quoting someone who is quoting someone else, what happens to the punctuation? The quotation mark changes to single marks contained within the double marks. What can you do with reported speech? You can paraphrase or summarize with reported speech. What does it mean to paraphrase and summarize? To paraphrase means to give the general idea without the exact words. To summarize means to give the general idea while leaving out details or omitting content. What do you need to remember to do while reporting speech? Think about what you are trying to say, what someone else said, and maintain subject-verb agreement and consistency. What word does one use to report a yes/no question? Give an example with your response. One uses the word if to report a yes or no question. How does one report a command? Give an example with your response. One uses to, or the infinitive, to report a command.